Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon to a few out there. It is the Earthmaster back here on this end of the weekend. It is Sunday, November 5th, 2023, about 10:39 a.m., and I think that's the correct time. We did fall back here in many states here. As far as that end of the daylight saving time, I wish they would just leave it at one time and quit messing with it, because it does affect people and their sleep patterns, that's for sure. All right, so earthquake activity, latest movement, a 1.7 earthquake into the area of Oklahoma. I want to jump into space weather activity first, because we are observing some very strong solar conditions right now. G3 storming kicking up here across the polar regions. This is due to a CME that was blasted off here a couple days ago, along with a filament eruption. We are seeing the arrival of these strong solar winds and charged particles here. Unfortunately for us, on the sunlit side of the Earth, the auroras are not viewable currently, but we are expecting these to kick up through the evening. There is the current Aurora Forecast looking at conditions very amplified across Russia and maybe even around the Sweden area, and the Norway regions could be seen. Well, it looks like some decent aurora conditions kicking up there. Now, later tonight, we are expecting to see them continue. This is the latest information here put out by the NOAA.gov website, Space Weather Prediction Center. The likelihood of auroras tonight forecasted is supposed to be around 6 or so. Now, I think we should still see these continuing throughout the evening time period. I don't see any signs of it weakening currently, but this is what it could look like. This is the visible view line here, and the red line dipping down into portions of Oregon, Idaho, Wyoming, Nebraska. These areas right here have a decent chance, pending the conditions prevail throughout the evening, of seeing the aurora. And of course, the higher you are into the northern tier states here, the more likelihood that they're going to be very viewable and possibly just overhead. Look at Canada and Alaska. Goodness. This is going to be, again, from a CME and a filament eruption, sparking off a G3 solar storm, which is considered a strong storm. Now, there could be some issues that do take place when we see these type of events. Not looking at any major power grid issues, but around up in space and whatnot, intermittent satellite navigation and low-frequency radio navigation problems may occur. And of course, with the G3 storming conditions, auroras have been seen as low as Illinois and Oregon, typically 50 degrees geomagnetic latitude. So, yeah, KP index of 7, and that's what we kind of bumped up to here. Let me show you guys the current data coming in here. This is the KP index, as you can see, up into the 7 range. G3 storming conditions on many of these stations that are monitoring the space weather activity. So pretty cool. Here it is again on the solarham.net site, showing the G3 storming conditions. And again, that should prevail throughout the evening. So if you are out there in the northern tier states and within that view line, I would get out there if you can, pending you have clear skies, to see the auroras tonight. I don't think we're going to see them here in Northern California, but potentially there in extreme portions of Oregon might have a view of them. So yeah, pretty awesome. Looks like still obviously daylight out there across the eastern portion of the country and eastern Canada, but we'll continue to watch that and see how it plays out throughout the evening. If you do catch any really cool pictures, send them to me. I'm definitely would love to see them. Let's see here. This is just a graph showing the CME 1 and 2, how they kind of bumped up here in the space weather department in terms of density, speed, and temperature. But also at the same time, along with this data, or with this CMEs coming in, charged particles and solar wind, we're noticing a BZ component here tilting south. That's allowing more conditions, or stronger conditions, than what would normally take place here if this was fairly stable, allowing that solar wind stream to flow right in and create these aurora conditions with that BZ component there of the interplanetary magnetic field pointing south. So we'll continue to watch this throughout the evening and report back on any major changes. Let's go ahead and check out the latest earthquake activity, see if we got anything major going on overnight. The largest magnitude in the last 24 hours is a 5.7 earthquake down in the Vanuatu area. This area is filling in slightly here. This was somewhat of our seismic gap zone here in the last few days. We did have quite a bit of deep, large-scale movement here in Fiji, Tonga Trench area, and it's just kind of filling in here across this plate boundary. So 5.7, the largest overnight. Also, we did see some slight uptick here across the area of Japan with the latest one, a 4.7, but somewhat active here over the last 24 hours, more confined to the Japan Trench, including one deep one there. This earthquake, 4.4 at 120 kilometers deep into the, looks like the northern edge here of the Japan Trench. The Kurokamachaka Trench remains quiet for now. Along the Aleutian side of this subduction zone, that earthquake coming in this morning, it looks like, 5.1, 81 kilometers deep. Not a whole lot going on through New Zealand, at least on the map. A look at the EMSC model does show, looks like a 3.6 South Island, and also a couple other earthquakes here in the 3 range across the area of North Island and into the Kermadec Trench. All right, Big Island of Hawaii, what's going on out here? Not a whole lot. Look at this, quiet conditions. Let me double check this, make sure. We're going to go over to the latest information from the Hazard Notification System. This is actually a really cool thing to view if you're interested in volcanoes. The daily update was not put out today, so we'll have to check back on that a little bit later. But there is things we can do to double check for ourselves, see if anything's being kicked up or not in terms of the Kilauea volcano there on the Big Island. A lot of instruments here to monitor. And we're just going to check out this tilt meter, see what's going on here. Looks like we are still continuing to rise slightly. This is the last 2 days. We were pretty neutral for a little while in terms of inflation, but came back up here slightly overnight. The long trend model here, last 30 days, does show the continued trend of inflation there across the summit area of Kilauea volcano. No eruption yet. Earthquake activity is minimal, as you've seen on the graph, but this here, let's see here, it looks like some type of, is this a lens flare, or is this actually lava? I don't see any volcanic gases coming from this area, so that's a little odd. I think this is some type of lens flare issue. Let me see if I can find a little bit better camera here across the area, because that sometimes can be deceiving in terms of that glowingness. I wouldn't think we would have glowing without volcanic gases. Let's see what we got here. It should be another, maybe this is the one that we just checked, right? No, it's not. Yeah, I think that may have been a lens flare over here that we had seen, because there is volcanic gases coming up, but they are seeping through some of the cracks there at the lava lake, the crater lake area of the Kilauea volcano, where the last couple eruptions have been confined, raising this lake and filling it up, but not in terms of water, magma and lava. So I'm not really seeing anything that, yeah, that's a lens flare. That's exactly what it is. Look at that. I'm glad, I think most people would be able to see that and think that that's not actually glowing at the surface levels, but a lens flare. And I get these quite a bit. I do a lot of photography here on this end during the day and also at night. So at night, if you have lights around, you can get kind of like a green lens flare that looks like a green orb. But here in the daytime, you get many different colors, and this orange-red color indicating a lens flare issue due to the sun at that angle and the camera pointing right at it. This is not lava, not magma, not any kind of glowing going on there at the Kilauea volcano. What there is definitely some volcanic gases indicating still some, this area does have quite a bit of magma underneath it. The inflation data tells us that the intrusion of magma has been taking place here for a little while, so volcanic gases will find their way up through smaller cracks and whatnot, and that's what we're seeing here across the area of Kilauea Volcano for now, but that's all subject to change, right? Mauna Loa, small earthquake activity up here, nothing big. Just kind of watching that for now, but it looks like things are calm temporarily. All right, into the Pacific Northwest. Doesn't look like we've seen anything overnight. Some very small earthquakes there throughout Washington in the last 24 hours. As far as California goes, did see some movement down here yesterday with that little bit of shaking going on outside the Ojai area. I believe that's how you pronounce that correctly. But also some small, very small microquake activity there across the San Jacinto fault zone. A little bit of swarming that was observed down here just off the Imperial area yesterday as well. That was a 3.9 coming into the region of Southern Cal. A couple other smaller earthquakes there in the mix. The San Andreas Fault got a couple small earthquakes here near the Salton Sea earlier this morning. A 1.8 and a 1.1. Now, we don't see a lot of earthquake activity here specifically on the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. And that's probably for a reason of tension, right? This area is already, and I'm sure you've heard quite a few scientists mention it, locked and loaded, so to speak, in terms of plate dynamics and plate stress. So when things are pretty much compacted and wound as tight as can be, it stays like that until we get some type of triggering event or just a general strain out there, potentially transfers to other areas, either on the North American side or the Pacific side of the plate boundary. But I think when things go, we'll probably see just a big one out here. This area is definitely capable of at least an 8.1, I believe, is the magnitude that quite a few folks have been throwing out there. It's a little bit overdue. So for now, it's quiet. But again, it's not always going to be that way. Any type of triggering event out here near it could definitely create a domino effect. That's why I like to watch these little swarms around here off on these little extensional fault systems just south of the plate boundary. What's an extensional of the plate boundary right here? But when these tend to kick up and have swarms, that's when I'm really watching this thing. But for the most part today, only minimal activity around the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault, with the San Jacinto Fault Zone showing most of the earthquake activity here today. All right, Texas has definitely been active here over the last 24 hours out in the oil fields. They've been getting hit like crazy. Even had an earthquake there outside of Midland with a 4.0 coming into the area. Quite a few earthquakes here across the area around the Pecos, Texas region. We got one earthquake right now into Oklahoma, 1.7. That earthquake coming in looks like around 8 kilometers deep or so. Areas around the Caribbean plate and South America. Let's see what we got on the earthquake 3D globe here. Looks like mostly 3s out here. Slight uptick here today. This morning showing some uptick there across the Peru-Chile Trench with 3s. And even a couple 4s being thrown in there. Some deeper movement quakes, noticing the rings raised off the globe, indicating deeper earthquake activity. Now, as far as anything above 4.0, well, there's 2 earthquakes this morning, 4.6 and a 4.6. Got a deeper one up here, Peru-Chile Trench, underneath the Argentina-Chile border area, 211 kilometers deep. So continue to watch that area. The Atlantic Ocean, nothing showing up here. Of course, we got the Iceland activity kicking up. It's coming and going with earthquake activity. Just a matter of time before we see that potentially come into an eruptive event. But I think for now, things are kind of just holding on across the area of Iceland. Mediterranean area, got a 4.4, it looks like, here around potentially the Greece area, it looks like. Let me see here. Maybe it's this one, Albania, 4.3 coming in this morning, it looks like. 36 kilometers deep. One earthquake out here in Iran as well, 4.1. And a couple other earthquakes out here across the areas of the Middle East. All right, what else we got here? Anything major going on for Storm Prediction Center? Well, it looks like it added a little bit of marginal risk for severe weather across the northwestern areas of the country, mainly around the Coast Range. We do have a pretty nice low pressure system coming in, bringing those folks up there. Quite a bit of rain. It looks like mainly, wow, there's actually a 2% threat for tornadoes across this area. Wind as well. Could see some water spouts out there across the coast or off the coast there. A look at the numerical models here, see what's going on. That is mainly due in part to a pretty large low pressure system out there. Let me bring up North American plate. There it is. Spinning up a lot of moisture into the area. Kind of leaving Northern California a little dry, but it looks as though that's going to dip down a little bit. Here, let me see. Bring back up the closer map, Pacific Northwest. Looks like the mountain ranges here of Northern California going to get a little bit of rain. But notice I don't like this feature here on the map. This little valley that we live in, where I live in anyway, Sacramento Valley, is a rain shadow. And I say that because we have mountains to the west, to the east, and to the north. And what happens when storms move over mountains? Well, they amplify, but they kind of ring out like a towel. When you're drying out a towel and you're just winding it up, getting all that moisture out, well, that's what we're left with. Not a whole lot of precipitation there in the Sacramento Valley. And then once it kicks back up over the mountain range to higher terrain, we get the uplift, convection, and the rain begins again. But I'm not a big fan of the Sacramento Valley. Sometimes we need storms basically that are going to be coming out of the south, not these systems that come out of the northwest. Once we get these south, I guess they're from the southwest flowing up into Northern California here, that's when we get quite a bit of rainfall funneling up into the Sacramento Valley. All right, let me check out the assemble, see what we got going on. There's our low pressure out here. We do have a pretty good ridge of high pressure building out in the eastern portion of the country. You can see that there on the map. Of course, that means some warmer conditions out here for the folks that are not quite ready for winter. Looks like you guys are going to be above average as we head towards the middle of November. Well, you know, things are they're mixing up here. There's a lot of blue, a lot of orange, indicating a lot of pressure differences, troughs and ridges building. But it looks like the middle of November, that high pressure is going to seemingly make its way over there once again and just stick around that region of the country and bring some above average temperatures for you folks there across the eastern portion of the country. And once we get down, you know, a little bit further on the graph, this is a little iffy. These forecast models are not super accurate that way, that long out, at least that far out. But for the next few days, it looks like some cooler conditions out here across the west coast with high pressure building in towards the east here. So enjoy it. I guess if you like that type of weather, I'm a cold weather type of guy. I like the storms and the clouds and the wind. You can catch me outside barbecuing in those type of conditions when most people don't. I love it. Absolutely love the cooler conditions. Look at these tight lines right here indicating pressure differences. A lot of wind in between these areas, low pressure and high pressure right here. Goodness. I probably have some rough seas out there across that area of the Pacific. All right, what else we got here, folks? Another real quick recap. Looks, moderate for earthquake activity here today. A look at the live seismograph stations show, well, fairly calm conditions. Not a whole lot happening there across the current seismograph stations that are running there on the screen. Hope you guys enjoy your Sunday, what's left of it, and send those pictures. If you guys happen to see the auroras up there tonight, send those pictures to me. I would love to share them here on the update video, maybe a little bit later tonight. I think we will see these conditions prevail. And again, that forecast line there, could see it dipping down into portions of, Nebraska. Look right here, this red line, Nebraska area, Wyoming, Idaho, other states out here, maybe Ohio, the Great Lakes area. So if you're out there, once it gets dark, look towards the northern horizon, pending you have a clear sky, not a whole lot of light pollution out there. You should be able to see it. G3 storming conditions prevailing right now. I'll catch you guys back here a little bit later.